Well, I'd say at least at the beginning it is, because the government wouldn't even know to ban it at that point, until some cases show up. With the black lung victims, well, first of all, in some cases, I think they do have good grounds for suing the company. But they're also all unionized. And where were their unions at the time when this was happening? I would think one group that should be in the forefront for health and safety for workers are the unions. And they've been hand in glove with the industry and with the government, because it wasn't until very recently, when there was enough publicity by outside people, that the government even started getting into the act. Before that, it was known, but the government wanted to get the coal out, the unions wanted to get the coal out, the companies wanted to get the coal out, and screw the workers. They didn't really have any choices. So it's something that you can't make life completely safe, and things like this will happen. They're finding out stuff in the asbestos industry. They're finding out stuff in the nuclear industry. But it can be handled other than through government regulation, or certainly should be. And I don't think government regulation certainly wouldn't have prevented the first cases, didn't prevent a lot of cases in between, and probably even now won't prevent cases. And the more industrialized we get, the more new industrial processes that come up, there are going to be more and more cases of this type of thing. And we could get into a philosophical discussion of, do we want heavy industry? And I tend to be very much of a decentralist, small is beautiful type. But that's a whole separate debate, aside from the consumer and regulation issue.
Lynn, I don't know exactly about this, but if you have a company, I'd like to hear about cases of where you have regulations, and then because of certain kinds of actions the government wants to take, they change the standards. I can think of a case in Oregon where they had a dam they wanted to put in, and there was only so much of the turbidity allowed in the lake, and they were going to create turbidity that mud is sustained, in the water. And it turned out that because of the soil, it was going to be quite turbid in this lake. It was going to be pretty fluid, it was going to be muddy. So they, and it wouldn't be allowed. So they changed the standards, actually increased them, allow for this, so they could go ahead with their project to build the dam. And I wonder if you know of any instances like that, where they really allow something that's undesirable just to affect some sort of project they have on board.
Well, that sort of thing's going on in the nuclear industry, all along now. It's more like, we need this stuff, so, what are the we'll write the specs after we build the product type of thing. It goes on in aerospace all the time, too. I mean, there are satellites up there that aren't built the way they were originally bid. The regulation becomes a tool of government policy, and as such can change as government policy. It's like getting, the Mormons getting revelation from God or whatever. It's, you change your dogma according to that. And I'm sure there's lots of other examples. Simply, they're talking about lowering air quality standards now because of the gasoline crisis and the fact that everybody, shot their catalytic converters anyway, running it on anything that'll take. So the way to fix it is to change the standards. Well, I'd like to change the standards completely, to remove them. It's just, that seems to be an intrinsic part of the process, and it's something the consumer is powerless to handle. And, it generally tends to be on bigger stuff.
Ecology, clean air. You think there's, like the government wants to regulate our air, and what do you think should be the free market solution for clean air?
Okay, well, in certain cases, such as cities and so forth, you wind up getting into a common situation, and pollution from individual cars would be a case in point for that. It's hard to stop any particular person from driving their cars, although in the case of Los Angeles, it had an excellent public transportation system, a good 50 years ago, that got destroyed because of basically government regulation and, promoting the automobile. as far as specific large polluters, I tend to take the view that what they do on their property is their business, but as soon as it gets off their bounds, then they're liable for damages, or if what they're doing is severe enough, perhaps a restraint order. And this would be the case in some large industrial polluters. But as far as in the present status as to how that should be handled, I don't know. I think certainly individuals should be allowed to have standing in court to bring suit against polluters. At this point, it's very difficult for an individual to do that. You've got to get together with a class of people that have been damaged and bring a class action suit. I think there have been maybe a few rare cases where individuals have sued, but that would help if each individual person could go after it.
A non-smoker having the right. Are you of clean air in this hotel? Nothing legally to do. So then people then justify a government regulation of no smoking.
Now, I think a lot of, I'm a non-smoker, and in our research group, our boss is sympathetic enough that you get to choose smoking or non-smoking offices, when room assignments come out. And plus, he bought one of those little air ionizers that just zaps the air and takes the, smoke particles out, and that sits on the table during all meetings that we have and all conferences. And, that's an example of it just being handled in private ways. I think as people became more aware of the, how obnoxious smoking was, the airlines and other public conveyors and so forth has become more aware of it. I think a lot of the non-smoking and smoking stuff has come about more because of consumer demand than because of specific government regulations. The thing is, consumers weren't demanding it until it became fashionable a few years ago. Up to then, everybody just hassled it out themselves. And, a few bold souls would go over and tell somebody, would you please put that cigarette out? It's making me sick to my stomach. But most people didn't do it. And all of a sudden, it became popular, acceptable. The non-smokers went on the offensive. And in that case, I think the government regulation just followed. Oh, wow, let's get on the bandwagon. Let's do this. So that's one where I think, in any particular instance, I think at least non-governmental means should be explored first. And I'm convinced that in any particular case, it could be handled without the government, other than in specific cases where there's fraud or in something like being stuck with a smoker in a closed room where you can show specific damages. Just if it's just a vague, gee, I don't really like that. Well, there's lots of things people don't like that they have to put up with. But I think where a specific damage is shown, then I think you have grounds for it. I think the market and individuals can handle it. We don't have to go 3,000 miles away to Washington to settle a dispute that could be handled just by the individuals dealing with it.
I find that thought keeps coming up to me, keeps coming up more and again, individually, that people who find it hard to accept the people who courageous souls to go across the room and say, gee, that's no correct cigarette is driving me crazy, that's starting to making me wretched, you see it out. I don't know what they say history will prove, and maybe we're still too caught up in the current writing of it to be able to project it and see it, but I would bet that an awful lot of government regulation comes from the fact that people find it hard to cross the room and take responsibility themselves. It's much, much easier to say, will you do this for me?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then somebody says, screw you, and you sort of go, oh, okay. So.
It's difficult. I mean, we're saying now we've given away this responsibility, which would have been much easier to assume ourselves 25, 30 years ago than it is today. And now we're going to have to work that much harder to cross that road. Now we have to push a lot of other stuff aside to get there.
Yeah, but I think it's the right path to take. Joan?
Well, yeah, along the lines of the open things here, one of the things that gives government a good name is that in many areas it is easier to feel that in the name of some kind of impersonal community standard written means than to do it on a personal basis. I don't think I was very puzzled as to why the Civil Rights Act worked so well. And I think But, for instance, a lot of Southern businessmen didn't want to take the responsibility of saying, I know because we might to serve the boss of my restaurant and that kind of thing. And therefore I'm going to do it because they felt it would also arouse certain residual feelings from other people. But if they could say, well, the law requires it, and I'm just going to the law.
Yeah.
Everybody was much more ready for being impersonal.
Yeah.
Personal choice and therefore stand against other people. And I think similarly in terms of the smoking, you're criticizing something. You say, well, you put out a cigarette, but if the law says it, this is, or regulation says that this is very impersonal. And I don't quite know how this is going to deal with this, but I think there is in human nature a feeling that the impersonal standard that everybody can appeal to is very attractive. There's a paradox, may I ask you?
Sure.
A paradox. When you give away the responsibility to somebody else, it has to, at least to me, set up some kind of very special event. That, and I think it works on an unconscious level, and I realize I'm getting off into the area of psychology. But I don't want somebody else to do it. I want to do it myself. And if I don't do it myself, I fall down myself. It's my responsibility, and I ultimately cannot blame somebody else because the law has worked right. It's my law. And if it hasn't worked right, it does not have to be worked right. You know, it may be fine. Thinking of giving away responsibility, but I'm saying there's something similar to like the need for Robert's rules of order. For instance, if you're in a meeting, it is much easier and much more effective to be able to say to somebody, you're out of order, than to say, shut up, you're interrupting.
Yeah.
To an abstract standard. And what I'm saying is that there are many of these areas in which there really are abstract standards that people would like to hold in common and turn off. But they won't have the choice. That might problem. Speaking in terms of regulation, I mean, I'm not speaking for regulation. I am saying we have to find other mechanisms.
Yeah, I think probably, yeah, I think probably, the mechanisms were more in effect when, it was more small town and more this, and you knew what was expected of you, and, there were certain behaviors, and if you didn't like them, you had to put up with them, and that was the breaks. And
Sounds a little bit bad.
right. I mean, yeah, living in a in a small town can be a real drag too. But having government in every area of our lives isn't any picnic either. And yeah, you can, yeah, that's yeah, and when I visited in the Bahamas, Abaco has got, I think it's 22 different communities. Each one has its own set of rules. Some are totally dry. Some you can get bombed out of your mind on. Some, each one is different. And the people do shift around a fair amount and find a place that's congenial for them. And, and I'm sure that sort of thing happened in the United States, too, in the earlier years. Some towns had a reputation for being really wide open. Others, had a bunch of Quakers in them, and, you couldn't say boo, this type of thing. So, I think it can be handled on a community level. Yeah, by choice. But I think you guys have hit on a good reason why, or an interesting reason why some of these things came about. I think it's probably true.
And why there's more uprising.
Yeah, because as you pointed out, when the Civil Rights Act came in, there were a few diehards, but most of the merchants just swung into line without any problem. There was very little resistance in the business community in particular. And I don't think the ones that were complying, they didn't get called nigger lover, or any of these other things. Everybody just, oh, okay, that's the way it goes. We lost the, yeah, it definitely was. And other than a few cases like the schools, people did comply. I think a lot of the affirmative action stuff, giving women more say in businesses, same sort of thing. Because there's been not very much overt resistance to that. And the sort of stuff that's come in has been just more of a very subtle social thing that I don't know if it'll ever be eradicated, but...
What we're almost saying, though, is that as a society, we have to go through the phase of imposing the rule, and then rebelling against the rule, getting rid of the rule after we've all then complied with the behavior that we wanted originally, but we're too afraid to demand without the rule.
Yeah, okay, we served our time. Now it's time to get rid of it. You going to say something, Tony? Okay.
They're not willing to take the responsibility for their food. They want the law to personally do something. And I think, I'm just saying, from a political standpoint, this is the greatest danger that we have, because I think that most people do not want to take responsibility for their own lives. I don't think that most people really want freedom when they look at it. We talk about it as libertarians, but we're struggling against a terrific general psychology where people want, they talk about freedom, but when it comes to making very hard decisions for themselves in their own personal lives or in other areas, they don't want to be the first. They don't want to stand up and they don't want to make the decision because they want someone else to blame for their errors. This occurs all the time in personal relationships. So that it's very, very convenient to have a government to blame for the mistakes that are made and bureaucrats to blame and your husband to blame and your wife. It's all across the board. For women to really be independent is very tough.
Yeah.
You know, to make little decisions, not say, well, my husband believes and therefore I think that. At least I'm learning this as a woman, that women have been kind of inculcated with feeling that other people should take a leadership role and make decisions, males, basically. And so I would say that the reason that we have a government that's as coercive and oppressive as it is because we want one to fall out. We want a fall guy. And we want regulators so we can complain about how badly they do the job. And unless we get really honest with ourselves and recognize that society just going to go downhill as long as we're not willing to take individual responsibility, we're in for trouble. And the most promising thing that I see on the horizon is that psychology today has changed very much from the behaviorist model to one in which they're emphasizing self-responsibility and people being willing to stand up and express themselves, and even though they're the only one who feels that way. And I think the new psychology is the best thing we got going for us.
You know, that combined with a somewhat stagnant economy, which gets people in the pocketbook, and you can say, hey, look how much look how much being a chicken is costing you. You know, wouldn't you rather have the money and just go over and talk to that person? And, I mean, that's basically what brought about the airline deregulation, probably do the oil deregulation, and at least, some of the other ones. I'm getting a signal from the back that time is up, so okay.